This home brewery has meant a lot to me over the past 3 years. And unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye. Because, well, I moved. That's right, folks, the time has come to say farewell to this awesome home brewery. And I think it's only right for us to give it a proper send-off before I share what's coming next. Back when this channel first started, I had pretty recently moved from the Midwest to Colorado, and I was living in my buddy's basement and brewing in his garage. This was the first iteration of the Hops & Gnarly home brewery. And it was a huge improvement to the apartment setups I was used to. I put up a wire rack to hang my hoses, got a secondhand fridge to use as a fermentation chamber, and I even set out some art to make it look nice. And some of you probably remember this rolling cart. This first home brewery worked really well for a couple years, but eventually the time came for me to move on. And in the spring of 2020, me and Meg got our first house together and we started building a brewery on one wall of our 2-car garage. This brewery build started with removing everything from the garage and pulling every single nail and screw from the framing. And there were a ton. Once we had a clean slate, we started installing the panels. These are 1/4-inch birch plywood panels from my local hardware store, and the intention was to add some warmth to my videos while also setting things up for some integrated storage. We used a couple small pegboard panels as a template, and after a ton of tedious drilling and sanding, the pegboard wall was complete. From there, it was just a matter of bringing in the furniture, organizing the gear, and styling the space. Over time, I slowly moved things around, acquired new gear and furniture, and found new ways to organize everything I needed to make my videos. Closest to the garage door was my milling cart, and the reason it was right next to the door is because this thing gets dusty, and it's nice to be able to wheel it out into the driveway and blow it off. Next to the milling cart was a hose-powered stainless sink with that same wire organizer above that to hang hoses to dry. Underneath, I stored my most used cleaning supplies like sanitizer, bottle brushes, and gloves. The next cabinet was PBW, lactic acid, flasks, some oxygen, and a few other things. Right above that, we had my October SL1 can seamer in my packaging station where I packaged my beer into either cans or bottles. In the drawers to the right, I stored everything I needed for packaging, like caps, wax, cans, and tops. And because I brewed right in front of this cabinet, this is also where I kept all my valves and accessories for the BREWTOOLS B40. The tri-clamps and a few other tools hung from the pegboard right above the can seamer. Then, of course, the fridge from my previous brewery. This is where I stored yeast and other ingredients, and I also used it as a kegerator and sometimes even a fermentation chamber. All around the fridge, I had storage for everything from bucket fermenters to Hops & Gnarly merch and everything in between. Right in front of all that storage was the fermentation station. I got a small shed from my local hardware store and cut some holes in the side to send glycol in from my BREWBUILT Ice Master 2 glycol chiller. That way, the heat stayed outside and the fermenters were shielded from everything that happened in the garage. And circling back around to the brewing space, I had my BREWTOOLS counterflow chiller mounted to a stainless steel cart where I also stored the steam hat and the Trubinator. Next to that was the SS Brewtech Brew Cube, which put the B40 at a great height, and that same rolling toolbox from my previous brewery that stored mostly fermentation related things like bungs, airlocks, and tri-clamp accessories. This brewery was truly a dream come true. And it's not just because of this space or the stuff inside it. To me, it represents what Hops & Gnarly has come to be over the past several years. I put a lot of time and effort into this thing, and all of you guys really showed up to support it. And because of that, quite a few brands have been willing to pitch in to make this content and this space possible. So, thanks. This wouldn't have been possible without you. Now, the next question is what's next? And I'm stoked to tell you that this video kicks off a new series where I'll be building out a new brewery. Me and Meg bought a new house in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, and I've been hard at work converting an old woodworking shed into a shed brewery. It's gonna take a lot of work, but in a lot of ways, this next brewery is gonna be even better than the last one. A new layout, some new equipment, and of course, we'll be making some beer along the way. So stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, and hit me with all your best ideas in the comments. My name's Dan, this is Hops and Gnarly. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you again soon.